You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
All right, it is time for part 2 of our Tales of the Underworld coverage here on For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. We are joined again by our special guest, Catrina Dennis, Andrew and Conor back here once again. If you missed our Ventress discussion, we will link to that in the description.
Which you shouldn't have.
You shouldn't have. You should be watching that first because Catrina talked about Ventress, which is always an event. So definitely check that out. Now we're going to talk about Cad Bane, which, again, the way that these Tales seasons have mirrored each other is we have one character kind of have a way out of this, the darkness, especially in Tales of the Empire was very much that, where one character managed to escape the Empire while the other one was so much consumed by the dark side and by the Empire that she just became a rage monster of revenge, like Morgan Elsbeth. This one was a very similar one where Ventress was able to kind of escape and begin her redemption with Lyco and start a new path, whereas we see Cad Bane get sucked into the underworld and him just really never really getting out of it, starting from a young age and becoming more and more like the bounty hunter that we see him be in the Clone Wars and the Book of Boba Fett and the Bad Batch. But we start off and we get to see...
I was so confused at first. I'm just going to say it now. I was like, who are these two kids? And then I saw the guy in like the hat and everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's Cad Bane. And I was like, wait.
No, Cad wasn't bulbous enough. He has a little head. Cad Bane has a really big head.
And then like the skin tone, I think, was a little different. And then the voice, I was like, oh wait, that's not Cad Bane. I'm like, wait, is that Cad Bane as a kid? I was flabbergasted.
Yeah, we get his origin story. We see them again. This was like, I'm assuming these are like way before the Phantom Menace, just timeline wise, of just seeing him and his friend Colby and Niro. So Colby is who.
That was another thing that was so wild. That like. That's not his name. His name is just like, again, I know we talk about how Star Wars has like...
Well, he's an outlaw. He's got to take a name.
Alien sounding names ever. And then there's Luke.
Cad Bane is his drag name.
And then like, you have Cad Bane, one of the coolest names ever. And his OG name is Colby. Like, I love it. I don't know. It's so odd. Especially because his friend is named Niro, which does sound like a pretty Star Wars-y name. So it's I don't know.
He's just a little guy. They're just rummaging for scraps and tricking poor protocol droids into getting their groceries. But we definitely get to see the differences of like the core worlds in a planet like Duro, of just being so. Niro has like a couple lines in the following two episodes when we learn more about the character and see what he ends up becoming, and him becoming a marshal that goes against Cad Bane, but him trying to work to rebuild this community. And we really just see it be crime-ridden, and you see at the beginning of the episode when the two of them are just running around trying to find food. The one kid comes up to him like, what are you guys doing? And the mother is like, I told you not to talk to street rats. So you just see that it is not like a healthy neighborhood that they're living in. And you see that these kids are just easily influenced by this man comes up to him. It's like, hey, I'll give you credits if you help me out with this thing. And it just shows how easily they can fall into this life of crime and get to see them going on their two opposite paths. But I liked that we got a lot of shots and early moments in these episodes establishing the world building of this planet. Just seeing like, oh, there's this grocery store that they want to get into, but there's this shady guy doing shady business in the back. And then just having to do literally anything to like scour through the garbage and find like old bits of fruit that they try to snack on. Like it just, I felt bad for the kids. Especially because we know from a later line that they're orphaned, which is kind of heartbreaking when we see how the third episode ends. Yeah.
Okay, Andrew, I'm not even kidding you. It's probably because I watched these a couple hours before. I probably missed something. They're orphaned.
Yeah, because Colby has the line where he's like, oh, yeah, just like how my mom used to make it. It's like, oh, how long ago was that? And he's like, like he just. So these are two kids that have been like on the streets, like defend for themselves for.
Actually, wait, I'm an idiot. I really should have figured that out. Oh, yeah, they were on the streets.
Yeah. Where are their parents? Man. Like, they're dead, bro. Conor's just like, where were their parents the whole time? It's like, dude,
these aren't very good parents.
Yeah. What's going on with the
Well, yeah, no, I was under the impression until like I think either Cad said something or Niro said something. I was under the impression for the first like 5 minutes or so that like they were brothers. So
I also kind of thought that at the beginning. But
yeah.
I don't believe that is the case.
Because he says, I think in the second episode, he's like, oh, he's my dearest friend. He was my dearest friend.
And then immediately just flips a switch like, oh, you're the lawman now. So we're not friends anymore. But it's just kind of, there's so much like, I never expected to be like, hey, you know what Cad Bane needs? Kind of a sympathetic backstory, but it works. Like this is not like a story that I would say is like completely original. Like we've seen stories like this before in whether it's Star Wars or other forms of media. Like, oh, kid ends up, turned into a life of crime, encounters a former friend, boom, he's the bad guy now. It's very like someone pointed out like reverse Indiana Jones at the beginning of Last Crusade, especially with him adopting the hat of his fallen mentor. But whereas Indy managed to get out of there on a good end, Cad Bane just went further and further into the underworld and became a noted bounty hunter by the time of the Clone Wars. But again, there's these kids just trying to find food, and then this gangster Laszlo shows up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a businessman," and he gives him credits to lure him in, and we just see these. They're just. I like that we got to just see them be kids and just have fun and get food that they want to eat and just like have a good time by themselves. And it's so sad because we know they're being manipulated and used and just a part of this greater system. And then the next day their lives are literally changed forever because they're separated and ripped apart. And then Cad goes down this path that we know him to be. But yeah, Laszlo showed up and Conor was like, yeah, that's Cad Bane, right? So
well, I think something you mentioned really stood out to me because it's we talked a lot about how Ventress's episodes were very much about choice. And the case is the same here. The outcome of this arc is entirely because of choices that Cad Bane makes after things happen to him. Like that Cad Bane keeps making the wrong choices while Ventress kept making the right choices.
Yep.
But to his credit, he was a child, so he can only make the choices that are influenced of him. I would say, yes, these are things that could make you sympathetic to his arc. But the fact that once this season unfolds, or these episodes unfold, and he continues to make those bad choices.
To make those choices. You're like, nope, dude.
That's what sets him apart.
Yeah,
that's what makes it his fault. He can't, you can't fault a child for making choices to survive, but making choices about the person you love, about your family, about your future, while you've grown up, and leading into the choices he makes in Clone Wars to continue to be the worst person alive. Like that's the end of my sympathy for his character, but that doesn't make these episodes any like bad at all. It makes it in fact like amazing to see how someone becomes that monster, you know?
Yep.
Because he is so driven by revenge in the second episode that he has all these opportunities in the world to just stay out of it or step aside and let it go, and he just won't. He continues to make the wrong choices that end up taking away both his best friend and the woman he loves by the end of that episode, to where when you see him in the third episode, he is so far gone. He is this man full of rage, and he just wants nothing more than revenge, and it ends up leading to him it costs him more than he even could think of by the end of the episode, which is just so tragic. But I did like that line though, where on the second day after they are just given the gold coin, and Laszlo approaches the two of them again, and Nero is like, I don't know if we should do this, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I don't want 5 times, so we're good. We'll take 10. I'm just like, okay, well, he's just a kid, like, and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. But then we see that robbery or the shootout happen at that convenient the space grocery store, and we see Laszlo shoot that shop owner like right in front of the kids. And I mean, they had mentioned that, you know, that he doesn't like us very much, and they probably didn't like him very much, but like that was probably the first time that those kids had seen someone get killed and lose their lives right in front of them. And we see it again. It's tropey in a way, but one of the kids being arrested during the escape, and then Cad being stuck with this group, but then getting inducted into the family, and that being the turning point in his life, really, where one goes down this path and wants to become a better person and join the force and better his community, while the other one continues down this life of crime and slowly takes over this crime family. Again, it's something I've seen in several stories before, but because it's that familiar form of storytelling, I found myself connected to these characters, even though I had a feeling I knew where the story was going, because we don't see Niro in any of these Cad Bane stories, but I'm just like, okay, this is probably going to lead to them, like before I even watched the third episode, it's probably going to lead to them having a showdown in the final episode years down the line. And it's going to be this sad moment. But I found myself being way more connected to these characters than I thought I was going to. Similar to what I said about Lyco, it's like I'm going into these shorts wanting to watch Ventress, but this Lyco kid is really intriguing me, and it's working really well, and I love how they work off of each other. I found myself really gravitated towards Nero's story, and the more we learn about him, and getting to see him go against his former friend, and again, he is put in those choices where like he does not want to go against Cad. He, like in the third episode, he like is doing everything he can to avoid that confrontation. But then he knows that he has to do that. And I just, again, I really liked these episodes, and I liked getting to learn more about these characters. And like you said, having Cad have all these opportunities like Ventress to make those choices, but to continue to make the wrong choices, I thought was very compelling and led to these episodes being really strong, in my opinion. When we get to the second episode, and we see this is further down the line, he's a member of the crew now, but we see him leave, Laszlo leave at the beginning of the episode, and we see Cad's got himself a little lady friend that definitely doesn't lead to anything happening later in these episodes or anything. But he gets killed on that mission, and he just, that is when I feel like the character of Cad Bane is born, when he finds that hat, he puts that hat on, and it's just like, okay, this is the Cad Bane we know. He's starting to, he's too far gone at this point, and he is just angry. He wants revenge, and he's gonna do whatever he can to make the guy who killed his mentor pay.
So I will note again, like neurodivergent nerd note. Erin, Cad Bane's love interest, is voiced by Vanessa Marshall, who you might know as Harrison Dula. So that's if she sounded familiar, that's why. And yeah, and again about that turning point, I think something to note here, just to touch on for a moment, is we talked a little bit about Dark Disciple and the things that we didn't get to see in animation because they were never produced. There is a set of Cad Bane and Boba Fett episodes that we never got to see that essentially start as Cad Bane sort of playing a mentor role. Like they had met before earlier in the Reiko Hardin episodes, I think. But they meet again, and Cad Bane sort of becomes a bit of a mentor, but things go wrong, and he ultimately becomes like a massive rival to Boba Fett and tries to kill that kid. And I think that like that those actions and that choice to like, you know, see Boba Fett as a potential mentee was deeply influenced by the fact that he was mentored by Laszlo here. And we get to see a little bit more of that perspective that, you know, we haven't gotten with Cad Bane before because that was never animated. And it would have been great.
Love to see those animated, especially because of the fact that like oh my god, I'm forgetting. Bad Batch season 2.
Oh, Bad Batch season 2. Yeah.
They're like, we pretty much get that the duel happened because like there is that apparatus on Cad Bane's head, but it's like, okay, we know it happened. Where is it?
Yeah.
And they allude to it in Book of Boba Fett too. So I want to see it. But I think they're like how the Gunji episode of Bad Batch season 2 kind of took elements from Clone Wars episodes we never got to see and put them into that episode. I feel like we got a lot of those Cad Bane Boba Fett elements in these Cad Bane episodes. Just replace Boba Fett with both Niro and Laszlo. And I thought that was a really interesting choice because when they announced that Cad was going to be one of the characters in Tales of the Underworld, I was like, are they going to do the Boba Fett?
Are they going to do it? Yeah. Finally.
Yeah, like are they going to show it? Because like for a lot of the Tales episodes we've seen in prior seasons, they have like jumped across time. Whereas these ones were, even though these Cad Bane episodes were set years apart, they were one contained story. They weren't like, oh, here's Cad Bane doing this one mission, and then here's Cad Bane doing this other mission. It was like, here's his origin story in the first several years of his life and how he became this bounty hunter. Whereas the Ventress one was one continuous story, which I thought was very refreshing, and what I think they should be doing with this anthology series going forward is just telling these contained stories, because in my opinion, they've worked a lot better of just seeing here's how it's going, and it just being one continuous narrative. I think has worked really well for this season. But to see us get introduced to Erin, and on rewatch, I can definitely tell there are several points in this episode where she just wants to be like, hey, I'm pregnant with your kid. Let me get a word out for 5 fucking seconds and tell you that, hey, we're going to have a baby. And he is just so dead set on, I got to kill this marshal. I got to kill this lawman. Which, by the way, are you the lawman? Like, I just love how Corey Burton just voices the character at this point in his life. It is like I said though, because Conor mentioned earlier when we see him as a kid and it's like a different voice and it's like, oh, this isn't Cad Bane. It is kind of jarring to like see like how do you go from that voice to in what like 5-7 years just go to just sounding like him in the Clone Wars. I just found that kind of amusing. But we do see Duro back at this point of Niro is trying to do better for the community. He's trying to rebuild the town and make it a better place. And it's refreshing to see someone in this position wanting to do genuine good for his people and not be, like a morally corrupt or bankrupt kind of figure. To where even though we don't know anything about this Marshal, we just know that he killed Cad's mentor. You do see the pain that Niro goes through when Cad does just shoot him down. And I really liked the shots of Cad when he goes back to that old shop and he's looking at his reflection, both when Niro pops up and they have that reunion, but also later in the episode when he's going to destroy the shop and you see the reflection of him as a kid in the mirror. I thought that was just really good storytelling. But as we alluded to earlier, when him and Aaron have that reunion with Niro, it's so like nice at the beginning because he just goes just straight in for a hug. And it's like, this is my oldest and dearest friend. Mm-hmm. And then immediately he's like, oh yeah, I'm a deputy now. And immediately Cad just flips the switch and it's like, who are you? Like, you're my enemy now. Like, it's just sad. And it's just like someone that wasn't so like drinking so much of the Kool-Aid for that kind of life, like probably would have been like, well, wait a minute, what do I do now? Like, my friend is going to be against me. Like, what do I do in this situation? He is still like, nope, I'm doing this. I got to kill him. I don't care if it ruins my relationship. I don't care if it ruins my friendship. I got to do this. And this is, I just really liked Cad's depiction in these episodes, or in this one in particular, because he's just angry and you feel it and you see that, like, yeah, this is a different person than the kid just trying to survive that we saw in the first episode. And I just really liked the direction his character was going.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about how Star Wars has handled and mishandled redemption in the past. Mm-hmm. And there were characters, and I won't name them because I don't want people getting angry in my comments, but there were characters who were turning to a dark path, who I didn't think were redeemable, who I wanted to see go full bad, full terrible choices, full unhinged, and they didn't. And so it was very satisfying for me to see this depiction, because as sad as it is, it's real. Like, people do this in real life. They fall this hard. They're that unredeemable. They are that set in their ways and sure that the things they are doing are the right path and everyone else is wrong. And to see Cad like fall was heartbreaking, of course, but like it was also kind of refreshing in a way, because it was like, this is what really happens, like, and it I think it lends so much to like the character he is and how ruthless he is when we see him again in Clone Wars and we see him again in Bad Batch and Boba Fett. He's a bad guy, and that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes we just need some reprehensible characters.
Yeah,
and to have someone that, even though you might want, like, it would be interesting to see if he went down a different path. Mm-hmm. And just like, if that was him that got arrested at the end of the first episode, like how different things would be.
Nah.
But now it's just like, no, like, part of me is like, yeah, I do want you to gun down that marshal, and I do want you to just make everyone's life a living hell.
Like, I guess it's because all I've known of Cat, I will never forget watching, I guess it was season 2, like either the season 1 finale or season 2 premiere, where he shows up in Clone Wars, and I'm like, this guy's awesome as a kid.
Yeah.
So I guess all I know is just evil Cad Bane. So I'm just like, he's just evil, man. He's got to do what he's got to do. So I don't
He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blows
Some
up the
people are
shop.
bad guys.
He kills the marshal.
He kills the senator.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fucked up because like he shoots him right in the back too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we watched the first arc of Clone Wars season 2, when he electrocutes that Jedi to death.
Oh my god, yeah.
I remember seeing that for the first time. I'm like, this is a kid's show. This is a Cartoon Network show. We're literally watching a Jedi get tortured to death. That's
Star Wars war crimes.
Yeah, that was one of the first moments where I was like, this Clone Wars thing, maybe not as fun and smiles as I thought it was growing up. Especially on rewatch, I'm like, God damn, that's dark. But it was so tragic that, of course, because Aaron is trying to save Cad, the marshal shot hits her in the shoulder. And her choice to take Cad's blaster just kind of sets everything in motion to where, like, yeah, he probably would have gotten killed by the police if she didn't do that. And he just got in a shootout. And she does that to protect their family. But from what we know in the last episode, that's the last time he ever sees her, and all he says to her is, "You betrayed me." And again, I want to be that poor girl, just scream out like, I'm having your baby. Like, just straight up say it.
But I mean, I think she realizes at that point, like, yeah, she's been trying to tell him, but like that's the point where it needs, like, she stops then. That's why she gives up, Because I feel like if she saw even a semblance of hope, she would have been fighting through that wound to try and get him. But he's too far gone by then, She has to let him go.
And I just love the ending shot of like, I hope this revenge was worth it. And he's like, it will be. And then just zoom in right on his face and the hat. I was just like, this is freaking badass. In the third episode, the lead up to his return, because we see, surprise, surprise, even in Star Wars, the justice system dropped the fucking ball. Because it's like, oh yeah, Cad Bane is going to be out in like 5 years. We don't have to worry about that. And then like 2 seconds later, it's like, oh, actually about that, he's out of prison and he's coming to the planet right now. He's on the 12 o'clock shuttle. So the first part of this episode really became like a race against time. And I like that a lot. I like that it starts off, we see that, hey, things do look a little bit better. Like there's like trees out in the open and there's kids running around. Like it seems like a nicer place. And we see Niro is now the head marshal. But we see that 2 of Cad's boys are just showing up on the planet. Like, hey, what's this about? And then we find out that he's been freed, and it just becomes everyone trying to tell Niro, like, what are you going to do? And he's like, oh, I don't have to do anything. No one has to die. But then we get introduced to Isaac, who is introduced as his son, or we think it's his son at this point, because him and Aaron got married. They raised this kid. And yeah, I mean, honestly, if I was Cad Bane and I found out, hey, my best friend, took my girl and had a kid, I'd be kind of pissed too. But at this point, you just know, like, okay, it's inevitable. They're gonna have to face off. One of them is gonna die. We obviously know that it's not gonna be Cad Bane because we see him in all these other stories. But I liked the build up a lot. I liked how he had that meeting with like the town council. I liked that when he showed up in that bar, and one of Cad's guys had the line of like, "Oh, bartender, give him a drink. It'll be his last." And he just tips the shot over because he is so dead set on like, no, I don't need to do this. No one needs to die. And that's very noble. He kind of is in an unsuccessful way, paralleling Ventress and Lyco in that third episode of, we don't need blaster fire. None of this needs to happen. But because this is a bounty hunter story and because this is about a character that makes all the wrong choices, of course this has to be resolved with blaster fire and by the loss of life. I also really liked how all of the Cad Bane episodes have the word good in the title, the good life, a good turn, one good deed. Whereas this is just good, and good choices is not something that this man is doing in any of these episodes. So I really liked how they titled these episodes as well. When we got full Western stare down between these two characters, how did you like how this was done and how this was handled and how this all played out?
Just amazing. Just like it was the thing that I think all of us were anticipating. Like, yes, we know there's going to be a classic Western standoff. Yeah, we knew.
Edit it with the good and the bad and the ugly score. Just someone make it.
They delivered so well.
The way they built the tension was great, and the way that some of us expect these greater action set pieces, but I just love the fact that both this and the shootout with the marshal in the second episode is just boom, boom, and that's it. Because that's how it would play out in the Old West. That's how it would play out in real life. And sometimes we don't need these extended scenes. Like, that's why the Maul Kenobi final confrontation in Twin Sons is so impactful to me, because we see them have the most balls to the wall lightsaber duel maybe in all of Star Wars in The Phantom Menace. And then in their last confrontation, we see just one swoop, and that's it. And it's so poetic for the end of Maul's story. And it worked to similar extents here, especially once the kid is introduced. And I just find it so heartbreaking that Cad doesn't put 2 and 2 together until the very end.
Dude, I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I looked it up. It's bad.
I mean, he's blue, so it's like...
Yeah, I didn't know how to put that. I don't want to be speciesist or whatever, but he's the same color as Cad Bane, and Aaron and Niro are not. So...
Yeah. Again, I didn't think of it.
I on my second watch, I had to clarify a couple things, because admittedly the first watch I was just kind of trying to put 2 and 2 together about the kid as well, and then when Niro has that line like, "Oh yeah, Aaron died," I was like, the first time I watched it, I was like, is this just her, or is this just him trying to protect her?
Yeah.
But on the second watch, I feel like, yeah, no, she probably did die, because she's just not in these episodes at all. But I do love that line that Cad has at the end, you took everything from me. And he says, not everything. And then you see Isaac crying over his father's dead body, and Bane just has that look, his eyes widen. He just stutters back a little bit, and you see him almost reach out, but then the councilwoman comes "Oh, stay away from him." And the kid has a similar moment too, where he's crying. He looks up, he turns around, he looks for Bane, and then Bane is just walking away in the distance. Again, very, very old Western movies kind of storytelling there, but it worked so well. And to me, this was like, that was the last moment of like any and all opportunity that Cad Bane could become a good person or a better person. That was gone right there. It's like, oh shit, I just killed my best friend in front of my son. There's no coming back from that now. And he has that sinister line of like, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of him real good for you, just like you took care of Aaron for me. But then for him to walk away and presumably never see his son again, I think is just like, it's the final dagger in the heart. And it's like, I don't want to feel bad for the guy because you're an asshole, but I love you, but you are. But it's like, oh man, it hurts. And
the pain
and on
of seeing
rewatch,
those
it worked really
choices.
well. Exactly.
Yeah. It's
Oh
like,
no, the actions of my consequences.
It's like, you did this to yourself, dude. Like, I don't know. These episodes were just really, really good, is all I have to say. And I do think that these two arcs did, in my opinion, the best of what we've seen from Tales, which is they enhanced both characters, I think, in a really meaningful way.
Yeah.
Like, these are not like, we could have gone the rest of time without needing to see Cad Bane's origin story. But now that we got it, I'm glad we did get it, because now I'm like, oh damn, like I'm going to think of a lot of this stuff when I see Cad Bane again. And I'm going to be very interested whenever we get back to the Clone Wars on this show, when we get to the next Cad Bane arc, and I'm like, I'm going to see if I can, if his scenes hit a little differently now. And with Ventress, it's just like getting more of things that we never thought 10 years ago, never thought we would get again, which is more stories of her post-death in this second opportunity to live. I really liked it. I liked, like I said earlier, I liked how it was all after the fact, all just her renewed second chance at life, and not just, okay, here's an episode when she was really young, and then here's one of her as a Sith, and then here's one of her after Dark Disciple. I like that it was all set after there, and we got more of just stuff that we've never seen before from Ventress. I really enjoyed that personally, and like I said, I think in terms of my overall enjoyment, this was my favorite of the Tales seasons, because I really liked a lot of the stuff we had in the prior seasons, but there was always an arc that, to me, stood above the other ones. For me, even though I really liked the Ventress ones a lot, I find myself kind of on even playing field between the two of them, just because I wasn't expecting to like the Cad Bane episodes as much as I did, but especially watching them again, I'm like, no, damn, these are really good. And like they stand toe-to-toe with each other. And I think it's, to me, this was the strongest Tales season yet. Catrina, I know you're probably a little biased because, Ventress wasn't in the other ones. But what were your final thoughts on Tales of the Underworld as an overall product, and of these Cad Bane episodes before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the both sets of episodes deliver something that is radically different. I feel like there's no like fair way to compare them, because they are different stories. They give you different feelings and reactions. Obviously, I'm going to be more biased toward Ventress, but I loved these stories so much. I love how much both of these characters tie back to Bad Batch, and it just kind of reminded me of how the galaxy is huge, and eventually we're going to start telling more stories outside of the Skywalker saga, as we have with the High Republic and hinted at the Old Republic, and we have more of the sequel trilogy to explore and stuff. But I love that there are within that saga these stories about different people who aren't Skywalkers, who aren't chosen ones, who are out there making these small choices that affect not just themselves but the entirety of the galaxy. And yeah, and I mean, if the thing these episodes do the best is explain to you why Fennec called Ventress for Omega and did not help Cad Bane get Omega.
Yeah. Thank God for that. Because
Fennec sat down and watched these episodes and was like, yeah,
I'm gonna choose the cool lady with the short hair and not
the
guy that
child murdering
child murderer. Yeah, I'm okay. Conor, your overall thoughts, just a few hours removed from watching these episodes for the first time.
I would probably say that if I had to choose between one of the two arcs, I'd probably prefer the Ventress arc over Cad Bane. And I guess just that's because like it's more so uncharted ground that we got to chart out. And also like, I don't know, redemption stories are cool.
Yep.
So, and I just, for me at least, I always underrate Ventress as a character. I really just do. There are tons of Star Wars characters that I'm like, they're really cool, but I just do not think about them as much as I probably could. And she's one of them. But yeah,
it was like a
solid season.
Gut punch of every extent for Catrina right there. It's like, what do you mean you don't think about it, Ventress?
every day.
I mean, it's valid. So, but yeah,
okay.
I thought it was good. I'm gonna finish Tales. Probably like the second. Well, yeah, Tales of the Empire. Probably right when we get off and after I have dinner. So the Morgan Elsbeth. I mean, from what I've watched, the Morgan Elsbeth stuff is fine. I'm just really excited to get into the Barris stuff. So
there's some good stuff. So
oh yeah.
You're again. At least you're finally getting to them. You're finally getting through your backlog. I wish I could say the same about the dozens of books I still need to read, but
the books I'm never getting to. It's going to take me like 20 years
when I get to it. But thank you all for tuning in for our Tales of the Underworld episodes here on For the Republic. Thank you once again to Catrina for joining us here for these Tales of the Underworld episodes. If you'd like, tell everyone where they can find you, what you're working on currently, and what to expect in the future.
You can all find me at Catrina anywhere on the internet. That's OHCATRINA. I am working on two big things at the moment. One of them is a nerdy beauty brand called SideQuest Cosmetics, sidequestcosmetics.com. We just launched our debut line. It's a line of colorless lip balms inspired by high fantasy, tabletop RPGs, and all that good stuff. It comes in peppermint, lavender, and orange, and they are paladin, cleric, and rogue. So feel free to go check that out. The other thing I am working on right now, so I'm working on two crowdfunding campaigns. One of them is for a 2-game TTRPG book called Galactic and Going Rogue. They are two Star Wars inspired tabletop RPGs that are truly magnificent. And if you're either getting into RPGs or you're very, very into role-play heavy games, these are the games for you. I absolutely love them. So please go check them out. The other thing I'm working on is I am the associate producer of a documentary called Boldly Going. It is crowdfunding on Indiegogo. It is about Bruce Korak, the artist, musician, and entertainer who is better known by Star Trek fans as Heather from Strange New Worlds. In his documentary, he interviews creatives with disabilities and paints a portrait of them after each interview. Bruce was the first legally blind actor to play a blind character on Star Trek, so this is a very impactful and important documentary, and we are crowdfunding for both, so please go check them out.
Perfect. I will definitely make sure to link to that in the description. Definitely support those. That sounds really awesome. Conor, as for you, where can everyone find you?
Blue Sky at Dubba Banana. Twitter shortly. I'm going to reactivate for archive purposes.
Just the archives.
Literally just the archives, so we can nominate, so I can get Philly's legend Bryce Harper into the archives. Also at Deppa Banana there. Instagram at ConmanJFO. I also podcast over at the Nerd Academy podcast, specifically our Star Wars show, Knights of the Nerd Republic. You can find us on why can I never remember? Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and our website, nerdacademypodcast.com. I think I can never remember off the top of my head. Just Google us, you'll find us. And then I co-host and co-write trivia questions over at Star Wars in a Galaxy Epic Confrontations. You can find all of our past, present, and future matches over at the Star Wars in a Galaxy YouTube channel, and follow all of our socials at In a Galaxy Trivia. We have a couple exciting matches coming up. We just had one recently. My co-host Jared the Dark Jedi versus Scotty Holiday. It was an incredible match.
Scotty.
Go check that out.
All right. As for myself, you can find me Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky at Starlight Andrew. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at For the Republic Pod. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Check that out. Like I said, we got a couple episodes coming soon. We're going to have a couple different Andor-related episodes as we are in the aftermath of the series ending. I still can't believe it is over. And then in the summer, because we don't have a show coming until Visions, we're going to go full bore back into our Clone Wars rewatch and hopefully get through season 2.
And we'll get through to season 2 in like 3 months.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So again, we got a lot of stuff planned. Hope you guys are enjoying. We're going to have a really good summer here at For the Republic. But again, thank you guys for joining us. Hope you had a good time. And until next time, may the Force be with you.